Welcome to Joy Unfiltered. I'm Rachel, and this is a podcast about joy. Not the shiny, performative kind, not the everything happens for a reason kind. This is joy as a strategy, a way to stay steady when life feels loud, a way to stay human when things are hard, a way to lead, love, and live without burning out or checking out. Some episodes will be just me. Some will be honest conversations with people who have lived their way into a deeper, truer joy. No fixing, no bypassing, just real stories, real tools, and room to breathe. Let's get into it. Welcome back to Joy Unfiltered. I am Rachel, your host, and today I'm so delighted to have Mary Westheimer with us. Let me introduce her, and I'm again just so excited about the delightful conversation we're about to have, or that you are about to listen to. So Mary, who is not ashamed to be 70, didn't mean to write What Nobody Tells You About Getting Older, a book about aging with both eyes open and perhaps with some readers on, but with both eyes open and a smile on your lips. Then she realized that her long-term collection of observations and helpful tips could help people handle the reality of aging and life in general while not taking it overly seriously. Westheimer has written hundreds of articles for national, regional, and local publications, including USA Today, Columbia Journalism Review, and Publishers Weekly, and was the associate editor of national airline America West Airlines in-flight magazine for 8 years. So I am so excited, Mary, to have you on today. I think it's such an important topic, again, as I get my readers out. But just welcome. Just want to say welcome. And I don't think I asked you before, Mary, where are you coming from in the world today?
I know, it's so funny. We never know anymore. I live in Phoenix, Arizona.
Live in Phoenix. Okay. As my listeners know, or most of my listeners know, I'm in Minnesota, and we are having a late spring storm this weekend.
Oh, I've
so
heard.
I'm a little envious of you being in Arizona right now. So
Okay, don't get too excited. It's going to be 106 next week.
Well, that's so interesting. I actually am from Minnesota, but I spent the last 2 years living in Austin, Texas. So I've now in the last 8 months, I've had this juxtaposition of, yes, 100 and whatever, it doesn't even matter, 100 and whatever to what we have here. So what an interesting world we live in.
Contrast. Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Well, there's so many things that I want to talk about today, but let's actually, I do want to get to your book, but I don't often do this, but let's just jump in and talk about my favorite topic, and let's talk about joy. Yeah. So I know when we first connected, that was something that we had in common. So would love to kind of know what role, maybe even today, what role is joy playing in your life today?
Well, Rachel, when I saw your podcast, I said, I have got to be on this. This is, and I think I wrote to you, joy is really my lifeblood. And it almost has to be to survive, I think. And I realized it's gotten me thinking about, well, why do I say that? But I think I've taken a certain mindset for so long that, as you have talked about in your podcast, it's actually changed my body. My neural pathways now are more inclined toward joy. And I don't know how I'd survive without it, to be honest with you. It permeates everything in my life.
Yeah,
not that I don't lose my temper now and then. I don't want to make it sound like I'm a saint, but it just makes everything more smoother and easier to navigate.
I could not. You were speaking to the choir here. Yes, absolutely. And a couple of the things that you said in there, we can, nerd out about brain chemistry if we want to, but, it does change our neural pathways. But you also talked about mindset. So having that mindset of choosing joy and having that kind of be at the either the forefront, or maybe it's the foundation, because it sounds like the way in which you're talking that joy is, and probably in some of the humor that you're using as well, but joy is the foundation, and then we jump off from there. And you're right. Doesn't mean we're always happy. Doesn't mean that we don't get angry or sad or have all of the circle of emotions, but having that as the kind of as the foundation. So talking about that, and a couple of things that you and I had talked about even before we jumped on the podcast, one of the things was meditation. So having that mindset. So talk to me a little bit about how did you start a meditation practice, and what role does meditation play right now?
Well, thank you for asking, because I do think meditation is part of that foundation, which I think is a great way to refer to how joy can affect your whole life. And I don't remember all the details, but I remember that because I didn't know it was going to be such a huge influence on my life. But I started 5 minutes a day because I read somewhere, just start somewhere. And so I thought, well, I'm a busy person, but I can do 5 minutes a day. And so I started there. And then I read a book that said women, because of the way their minds work, and again, I believe this is science, not putting people down, it's just reality. Their minds get busy and they see so many multiple things. So once their day gets going, it's really hard. And so you're better if you meditate first thing in the morning. And I thought, oh, well, scheduling wise, that really works for me too, because I can always get up earlier. So then I did 20 minutes a day. And then I joined a meditation circle of people who would get together and meditate together. And that's when the light bulb went on for me, Rachel, that I realized, oh my gosh, this is what I've been looking for. These are the things the pieces of the puzzle that I didn't yet have. Yeah. And sorry, our dog.
Nope, that is okay. For those of you who can't hear that, we've got animals. I have a cat that Sam might jump up and join us at some point, and it sounds like you have a lovely dog with you.
Yes, as well, she's playing with the lovely cat. And so the meditation circle took a break because the teacher had to have some surgery. I said, oh my gosh, I'm in withdrawal. I have to find some other way. And so I took transcendental meditation. And then I found out, oh no, you should be doing 20 minutes twice a day. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this. Well, I now not only meditate 20 minutes twice a day, sometimes I meditate more than that, because I find that the more I meditate, the more I want to meditate. And the question is why, but it gives me a basis of peace, which I think you called a foundation, which I think is true. And that place to return to that you mentioned. And that is really helpful. And also some little techniques that I might share with you that I've picked up from various teachers. So I'm not going to say I'm addicted to meditation, but I'm going to say that it's just really a wonderful way to find a center.
Yeah, I love that. I love that story. And I was taking some notes, and I think a couple of things that I heard, and that might be helpful for the listeners as well, is the first thing that you said is that you started with 5 minutes a day. Because I think often that when people hear meditation, they hear the last part of your story and they hear, oh, you're doing transcendental meditation. That sounds a little woo-woo, even the names, and you're doing 20 minutes, 40 minutes a day, right? And so they just hear the end part of the story and they don't really grasp on to the beginning part of the story. And I think that is so crucial, especially as we are learning to practice joy, learning to practice. It's called practicing meditation, right? It's not like we mastered meditation. We are practicing meditation. It's the art of practicing meditation. So I really do want people to hear 5 minutes. And that's where I started too. Honestly, I think I started with like 3 minutes a day. I put on my little timer on my phone and I was like, 3 minutes. Okay, let's start here, because it does take a long time to ease into it. And just like any habit that we want to create or that we want to be part of our lives, because doesn't everybody want all of the peace and the joy that comes from meditation? Of course, but we have to start small. So
Yeah.
I love that part of your story, Mary, that you started small. And then love that you started in the morning because we've talked often, or I talk often, and I've talked about on the podcast before too, that first 30 minutes of your day, you're in this kind of state of not quite awake, not quite asleep. And our brains are so suggestible. So that if we
Huh.
can do
Uh-huh.
that right at the beginning of the day, that actually trains our brains to bring more joy and more calm because we
Hmm.
say this is what we want. So our brains are going to look for that during the day. So beautiful. I have a couple of questions, even starting at the beginning. So when you started doing the 5 minutes, did you, well, when I was going to say, did you use an app? But you could have started this 20 years ago before there were apps. I mean, like, how did you start? Because I didn't start with an app right away, but then I moved quickly into I used Headspace just because I read the book first. But how did you start?
It was a long time ago, but I think it may have had to do with yoga.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think maybe. And I wanted to say one other thing about meditation that people balk at, Rachel, which is the thing I hear most frequently is, oh, I can't meditate. I'm terrible at it. And I always say to them, me too. I'm also terrible at it. But the more I do it, the better I get and the more I want to do it. But to try to get your mind to let go in our busy worlds, and really good meditation teachers, I think, really, first of all, they're usually funny, which I like. They use humor, but also they're very forgiving and will say, don't worry if your mind wanders. It's okay. Your mind is made to think. What do you expect? And I think that hurdle that people have trouble getting over, I'm terrible at it. Everybody's terrible at it, except, I don't know, maybe the Dalai Lama's pretty good at it by now. I'm just
By
guessing.
now, but I bet you the Dalai Lama started with 5 minutes a day and started doing that as well. And I love that you said that because when I listen to, and I this is not an ad for Headspace, although I do advocate for it. I don't make this is not a sponsorship or anything, but using Headspace, and I really liked how Andy, who started that, when he leads his meditation, that's what he says. He's like, just come back to your breath, and if you have to do that every breath because your mind wandered every 2 seconds, that's okay.
Yeah.
That is okay, right? We are, and I go back to that word, practicing. We're
Yes.
practicing
Yes.
doing this. None of us get perfect. Like you said, probably not even the Dalai Lama is perfect at meditation. Probably better than we are, but perfect, right?
Yeah. We can hope. We can hope.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
No, I love that. And I do appreciate the fact that the other thing that you said, and so I want people to hear this as well, you start small and addicting, we can use that word, but it does get, the more you do it, the more you want to do it because you're everything, not just your mind, but your body feels good. And, I want to get into this whole conversation about aging. And so, not that I want meditation to be a superficial thing because it's not, but do you know what, that aging helps your skin? Like aging helps you have less wrinkles.
I mean, meditation.
I read that meditation, and probably because
Yeah.
you are sitting and you are, that your face is
Oh, I
all
believe
calm,
that.
and so that. But that there's research about that as well. So if
That's
you want to
interesting.
start for some reason, I don't really care why people start. People need to start from different spaces, but that is just one added benefit of meditation. But it does actually change your brain as well. They've
That's,
done that research,
oh,
right?
yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And the way it also relates to aging, just in my own experience, I hope you don't mind me just bulling ahead
No,
here, but
let's go. Let's talk.
um,
Let's move. But yeah.
when I say I do 20 minutes a day, in the morning, I do 20 minutes of body relaxation.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is often the opening for meditation. Like guided meditations is first, let's get your body to relax you and everything. And so I start at my scalp and I work my way down and I do each of my body parts and I get down to my feet. And honestly, this is much harder than it sounds, especially if you do it every day. But I think it's been so good physically for my body. I think that it's helped my body tremendously to go through this whole relaxation. And so, does that affect how my body ages? Of course. And that's been, as you said, a side benefit. I didn't know about the wrinkles, though. I like
Yeah,
that.
I mean that too. And again, I'm all about, and I honestly, and let we know we can move into this whole aging space. I have this uh, I don't even know what the right word is. I am pro aging. I actually hate, and I don't hate very many things because I do think that's a strong word and language is important to me.
Yes,
But I
yeah,
really hate the word anti aging because I'm thinking, I don't want
yeah.
I'm not anti aging. I mean, I would rather age than not because if not, what's the alternative, right? We are all
Right,
getting
right,
older
right,
every day. So
right.
it's not anything about anti. We are aging forward, we are moving forward, we are pro all of these things. And I love, so I will just put that out there.
Yeah,
So the
I
whole
agree.
wrinkles thing, I mean, wrinkles are a sign of, of their badge of honor, right? But, maybe some of us want to, do things a little different, and everybody to each their own, but I'm all about like pro aging and using humor. So would love to kind of move into your book, how you decided to write that one, and then, but maybe we start before that. Clearly, you've always been a writer.
Yeah, yeah,
Did
yeah.
you always know that that was a skill of yours when you were younger?
Oh, yes. And my actual original career goal was to be a child prodigy. But at 21, that dream was over. So I figured, okay, but I did end up being a professional writer and I wrote for many years and I was in the publishing business for a long time. Um, I, however, did not intend to write this book, which sounds almost crazy. Can you hear that sound in the background? Because it's
Okay.
okay. It's our puppy being a
Being
puppy.
a puppy. It's your puppy being a puppy.
She is. She is. Someday I know I'll miss it, but not yet. Anyhow, I'm a list maker, Rachel. So I keep a lot of lists. And one of them was the things that nobody ever tells me. Why didn't anybody tell me this? And I don't know why I started keeping it. And honestly, I don't know when I did, but about 4 or 5 years ago. And then one day I realized I have so many of these, I think I could write a book. And so, as you can tell, writing was not something that was hard for me. So I would just sit down every Sunday and write this book. And that's how I got it done. And I've helped some other people unintentionally, but they've been wanting to write a book, both a husband and wife. And they said, well, we can do that. And I started doing this with a friend. I helped him write his book. And we would just sit down once a week and do what we could do. And then we'd sit down the next week. And so I had a book. And then I thought, well, what am I going to do with this book? Well, I guess that I should get it published. So I'd been in the publishing business for a long time. And I thought, I know a lot of people. I had no trouble finding a publisher because it's very topical. I needed it. That's why I put the list together. And other people also needed to have some kind of direction, reality check. You talk about not being anti-aging. I'm pro-reality.
Yeah.
And so, unfortunately, because I'm older, most of the people I knew in publishing were gone for one reason or another. And I thought, oh my gosh, this isn't as easy as I thought. So I decided to keep pursuing that, but I decided that my real goal was for people to have this information. It wasn't to make $1 million. It was to share this information and the mindset, the approach to aging of you might as well enjoy it. So let's do our best to enjoy it. So I decided to create a website, and I have been putting every chapter or fact snack in the book on the website because that was my goal, to help people have the information. That said, I was really fortunate. I found a fabulous illustrator and a wonderful editor. And now the book is selling really well. And
I
maybe it's
love that.
letting go of, that whole part of it. But the one question I always ask people is when they read the book, did you laugh? And very seldom, either they're lying or people always say, oh, yeah, I laughed. And one person recently said, and I'm not a laugher, but I did laugh. And I think humor is not only an important part of sharing this kind of information, it's an important part of joy. It really
Oh,
is.
absolutely.
I
Right.
mean, it's not the same thing, but they're deeply connected. And if you can laugh, you have joy in your life. So sometimes it's hard, but I have to be honest, I can find something to laugh at in almost anything. Almost.
I love that. I love that. All right. So a couple things I want to just like pull apart that story a little bit. One, I love the fact that, and you've said this a couple of times now, that you didn't intend to write this book, but I love the kind of the openness to the world or to the universe or to God, whatever you call something greater than us, but that you were open enough to follow that, because I think that there are so many people that have things, whether it's a book or whether it's a hobby or whether it's something that there's something there that they didn't quite intend, but if you're open, you don't like it, your life takes you down amazing paths,
Mhm.
right? So, but to be open to those things. I think the second thing though is that you are not only open to it, but you're willing to share your gifts, because that's something else that we talk about. And I think that's part of joy as well. It's that you were given this gift of both of humor and of insight and of writing. And so instead of keeping that to yourself, that you were willing to say, no, I'm gonna put it out there in whatever form that takes. So just putting it out on your website and then, giving people all a glimpse into that. I love that. But what I really want to get into is, can you just share a couple of the what didn't people tell you? I'm dying to know like what your favorite pieces of the book are.
Oh, okay. Well, there are uh
I mean,
30.
that's probably hard to like that. It's like
No, no,
asking you to
that's
pick your favorite child, but like what are some of the biggest things for you that you want to share?
yeah, I think it is a little tricky because I didn't think that way, but I've been asked that question before and I thought, oh, I should think about that a little bit. There were, as I said, there were about 40 things that I collected, and most of them were funny because I am always looking for the humor in things. One of my favorites was something that my grandparents did, and it is the chapter or fact called Sing, Sing, Sing. And my maternal grandparents, you could say almost any phrase and they would in unison break out into song. And they could only do a couple of lines maybe, because who can remember the whole song, right? But it would remind them of something in their childhood or in their growing up years or young adult years. And I used to like sort of cringe a little bit. Now I sing, and I've realized that it's part of aging, sort of, because this is part of your life, and what you relate to and the touchstones of your life are often a song. You remember where you were, you remember who you were with, uh, you remember that you were young and vital, and you want to remember those times. That's what you want to emulate. The more you think about aging, the faster you age. That to not focus on it all the time and you know go into your aches and pains, the organ recital, as my parents used to call it, you feel much better if you focus on the positive and on what's working, and you work on what's not working. But that was really one of my favorites. But I also, let's see, what are some of the other ones that
Well,
I
I have
like?
I have just two things to say or to ask you about that. I think what that brings up for me is one, it brings me a little bit of joy just thinking about that. So bringing the joy into things, but that music plays such a crucial role in both memory, but and in joy as well. That
Yeah.
there's good research about how music connects us,
Hmm.
and connects us both to memory, also then can connect us to each other, and
Hmm.
both of those things then connect us to joy. But what you just said as well reminded me of this research study that I just read about if you think about aging, then you just get older, or I don't know exactly how you just said it, but there was this research study done in the, I don't remember when exactly the study was done, but they got together this group of 10 men, and they were in their 70s, but they said they're going to live in this house for a week, and they turned the clock back 20 years. So the people, they had to like bring clothes that they wore 20 years ago. They had to bring pictures of themselves that how they looked 20 years ago. There were no mirrors in this house. They listened to, they turned back the clock 20 years and they lived there for a week. It was amazing the change in these, I mean, physical changes in these men,
Huh?
cognition changes in these
Huh?
men after only a week of living as if it
Mm.
was 20 years ago. So they're like, I'm not going to be able to cite all the things that they were able to do more better. They were able to do better, but it was, I mean, it was both physical things, it was mental things.
Huh?
They're actually, when they had strangers look at them from before that week and after that week, they said that they looked 5 years younger. I mean, it was amazing. So to your point is, how do we use that and not think, look in the mirror and think, oh, I look whatever, but to really embrace that pro-aging piece of it. I don't even know how else to say it, right? So
Oh,
yeah, it was a
yeah.
fascinating study. So anyway.
Yeah. Oh, and I will add to that, Rachel, because it just comes to mind that I don't do things like plastic surgery and that kind of thing. But if people want to do that, great, go
Yeah.
for it. Whatever floats your boat, whatever makes you happy. I don't have any argument with it unless it affects or hurts someone else. Then we need to discuss it, but not me personally. But I think that that's okay. It's not my thing, but I'm very accepting of whatever people want to do that makes them feel better and they can afford it, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you as well, as long as it doesn't hurt
Yeah.
somebody else. So absolutely. So okay, so that was number one. So that's the breaking out into song. Love it, love it, love it. I can't wait to tell my sister about
Oh,
that one. So what else? What are some other highlights that you, when you think about your book, that
well,
mind?
one of the hardest ones to write came later, which was a friend of mine for many, many, many years. And she's our business coach in our other world, or my other world. Um, she said, Mary, you can't write a book about aging without talking about loss.
Mm,
I thought, ooh, that's going to be hard. And I have to be honest, I have never said this before in public, but I will to you that I don't really know how I wrote this book. I think I really channeled it. I didn't realize I was this funny. Is it even now I'll reread things and laugh. And I think, Mary, you wrote that. How can you? And you've only read it probably 100 times. How could you laugh? But I do feel that it came from somewhere else. And is that the collective consciousness? Maybe, I don't know. But at any rate, I knew she was right. And so I sat down and I wrote about loss. And it's, I would say, one of the more poignant pieces that I wrote. But she was right. And it isn't just about losing life and losing loved ones, it's about losing abilities and losing dreams. You thought you were going to be a ballerina. Well, clearly you were not at whatever, 80. But I was really glad that I did it. And so I think that was a really important one. And we're trying to think of some of the other ones that are fun.
yeah, no, I like that one though too, is
Yeah.
too, Mary. And I think that's so true. And we talk about, or I talk about, that joy isn't about just being, putting your rose-colored glasses on and being happy all the time. That joy
Mm-hmm.
gives you the ability to better handle grief and loss. Because it gives you, it helps to calm your nervous system, but it also gives you the bandwidth to experience the full breadth of that. Because I do believe that we're human beings and we need to experience all of the feelings that go with those things. So I think that is important. And I also don't think that loss or grief is the opposite of joy. I think that they can sit together in the same space. And my sister's a pastor, and also a grief counselor. So we were talking, we often talk, but we were talking about this particular topic, and talking about, or thinking about funerals, and thinking about the times where you've cried and laughed, like
Mm-hmm.
the hardest, is you thinking about, the process of going to a funeral, and then afterwards, and we're Lutheran, so what do? We get, you have a luncheon in the church basement, and sometimes there is the most raucous laughter during those conversations after the funeral as you are remembering, going through the memories and doing the things. And it's because we need both
Mhm.
grief and joy. And they're not opposite, they're like sisters, right? They
Right,
can
right.
sit together at the
Complimentary.
same table. So yeah. But
Yeah.
I like the fact that you talk about loss, as my sister does too. It's not just about death, it's about loss of, lots of things. And we do need to grieve those things as well, right? Like our dreams or our abilities or our, the lots of things that as we continue to move through on our journey, those
Mhm.
things are reality, right? So I don't want people to think too that joy is just fluff. It's no, it
Right.
just helps you move along on
Yes.
the journey so that you can see all of those things.
Yeah, I keep coming back to the word you used, foundation. I think that really is the truth of how it affects me in my life. And I think it would be helpful for a lot of people to have that foundation of joy. And from there, you can deal with loss. You can deal with, you know, amazing moments, which are that is, this incredible thing that happens. We also have to, in some ways, handle that. So, yeah, it's a great foundation. And I'm going to steal that, Rachel, but I will give you credit.
Oh, no, no, you take it. I think, we're all here together on this, like
Yeah.
figuring all of this out. And it's just, and for me also, I think, and this is just a personal thing, although other people have said this as well, is that because I come from a foundation or a place of joy, because I know that I can always access it, it lets me even go further into grief because I'm not afraid that
Oh,
I'm going to stay there. Like if you
wow.
don't know that joy is out there, sometimes it can
Incredible.
be scary to
Yeah.
deal with loss because if you deal with loss and then you get in there, you're like, well, what if I'm just in the middle of this lost forest and I can never see the light again? But if you
Right.
know that the sun is always going to shine, the sun is always there, even if you can't see it, um, it makes it easier, I think, than to
I
go
totally
to those deep
agree.
spaces. So
Yeah, what a great point. I totally agree.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's all a big surprise. There's so much about aging I did not expect. Here I am. But I did have an amazing moment toward the end of writing the book, and Robert Chambers, who did the illustrations and just a fantastic job. He was, everything was laid out. It looked beautiful. And I suddenly realized I bet my mom tried to tell me some of these things and I didn't listen. And I didn't listen because she was my mom. And of course, what did she know, right? Um, and so I said, I have to get a couple more chapters and not chapters, but paragraphs in there because I think this is so often true. And as you get older and you want to share your ideas with people, especially grandkids or kids or whatever, and you want to save them any pain that you can, but they are not listening. And now I look back and I realize, oh, that's why, because I thought I knew everything. And so my mom is all over the book. The book is very personal, which was also, when I look back, good thing I didn't think about it. When I look back, I realize how much personal information is in there, personal stories. But my sister who read it said that was the best part. But I think for her it was because she remembered the same things. But
Yes.
my grandfather's in there, my dad, all kinds of people, because it came from my life. I didn't just go out and some of them I did, but most of it was not research into these topics. There is a lot of information in the book, though, interestingly enough, because I was trained as a journalist. And so I did make a point of actually looking things up and using credible sources and all those things. And so there are a lot of links and mentions of specific people who can help and specific things that can help. On my list, my to-do list is a resource directory that lets you drill down deeper into these topics. So, well, where did she find that? Who said that? And what else did they say? So that's in the works. But uh, I have worked on, I've gotten some done, but I think that people have said, I wish I had more information. The thing is, though, they made the index wonderful. I
Mm.
worked on the index with the editor, and she's excellent with indexes and or indices, I should probably say. but we also build in some humor. So if you read the index, there's some funny parts, but also if you're saying like, what's going on with my skin? What's the deal? You can look it up. So that was fun too. So again, there's room for joy in everything, even an index.
I love it because I'm just thinking I just published a book as well. And my index is not. I didn't bring joy into that piece of it. I'll have to work on that in the second book. That's great. And I love. So I do have a question though. So you said that your sister enjoyed it. I have a sister as well. Because some of the memories. I mean, she could relive some of those memories. So my question to you though is, does your sister are her recollections of the stories the same, or does she have different, would she tell the story in a different way?
That is an excellent question. And I'm not sure specifically, Rachel, but she feels she had a very different childhood because she was the baby.
Oh, yeah.
There were 5 kids and the rest of us were all gone. And she has said my parents were clearly done with parenting a child before. And so her experience was very different. But we do tell each other stories now. And one of us will remember one and one of us will remember another or differently. And I think being able to go back to memories, and that's a large part too of having friends. And I talk about friendships because I learned some things. Friendships are really important to me. And I foolishly thought they were forever. And I had to learn they are not. Sometimes they are, but it's okay too to say we've been friends for a long time. You might not say it out loud, but I think we've gone different directions, and I think it's okay to have friendships that last for a short period of time, but a very rich one. And then I also talk about the need for younger friends, about having younger people in my life because we don't have kids. And so there are a lot of things I don't know. And I use an example in the book of like, why do people buy ripped jeans? I just don't get it. And so people have really picked up on this. And I've had a couple younger people say, well, let me explain to you why I buy. And I'm open to it. I am open to hearing it. And I know where my biases are. But friendships are so important because they're people who know us. Yeah. And they can say, gee, it's so great to see you be a happier person. Or they can say, you might want to rethink this relationship with someone, because I've known you a long time. Clearly it's affecting, whatever. Good friends who really share with you what they see and what they care about.
I love that. And I think a couple of things that you said certainly resonated with me. And I don't have kids either. But I think, so the first, multi-generational friendships, I think are so important. I mean, I have a grandmother who is going to be 102 in May. Right. So, and I think about her friendships all the way through. And if she didn't have multi-generational friendships, I mean, I think most of her friends have already passed away. I mean, at 102, most of your friends have already passed away, right? Yes. So having multi-generational friendships, and sometimes friendships can be family. So I don't think they don't need to necessarily be separate, but to have multi-generational relationships, I think is really important. But I also, I like the fact or the point that you made too, is some friendships do last a long time, and it's nice to have that. I'm going to use the word foundation again, but it's nice to have someone that has known you for such a long time so that they can see the growth. But sometimes it's nice to have friends that are newer friends because, you're a different person than you were 20 years ago. So for them to be able just to see, oh, this is who you are today, and not have that, I don't want to say baggage, but not have that other old perception. Because sometimes people are like, and sometimes families are like this, right? You play this role in a family, or you are this way in the friend group. And so of course you should always play that role. And maybe you've outgrown that as well, right? So it's important to have those people who anchor you, but also then to have lively new friendships and get to, have people see you who you are today, which might be different than you were. So
yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you. But I have to say I had to learn it.
Yeah, because you just think, oh, I've been friends with this person for so long. How can I break up with them? It's not
Right.
it's not a boyfriend or it's not a husband or it's not a whatever, but how do I break up with, I think that's a thing that probably women, I don't want to be just saying this about women, but I think it happens to women more than it does to men in terms of that. But there are times where you outgrow friendships, and that's okay. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Women are better at having friendships, has been my observation. Men are not really all that good at having friendships, I think. Like my husband does not like sports, so he doesn't go to the bar or watch the game or whatever. Um, but even my late husband, he really didn't have friends either. And I've noticed that I think men struggle with that. And I think friendships do contribute to your joy.
Mm-hmm.
And just being able to be with people that you can laugh with over absolutely nothing
Oh,
is so important.
100%, 100%. I mean, I talk about, for me, I've got 5 pillars of joy, and the second one, and joy is the acronym, but to nurture connection. I mean, we cannot, I don't believe that we as human beings were put here on this earth to be solo creatures. We were not
Mhm.
meant to be solo creatures. So nurturing that connection absolutely is part of joy. So that's great. That's great. Well, oh my goodness, this has been such a lovely conversation. And I'm sure, well, one, I think everybody should go out and read your book. But before we kind of close, and before I tell everybody where they can go get your book, is there anything else, Mary, that you were like, I am dying to let either talk about or let the listeners know about aging or about joy or laughter or your book or anything?
Well, I'll give you one quote. I'm struggling to remember the name of the man who said it. And if I remember, I'll send it to you.
Sure.
But he said, there's really only one problem and one solution. The problem is we think we're alone. The solution is we're not. And I think that when I read that, I can't remember his name, but I remember that quote. I have his book in the other room. It really said it for me that we need to be one and see each other as one, even the people that we cannot imagine being one with. And this may be the human struggle, but when we do, it gives us that foundation of joy and being together, collectiveness that really will save us all. So
Yes. Oh, what a beautiful, just kind of a beautiful sentiment to end on. So thank you for sharing that. If you do think of who said that, you certainly can send that to me and I will put that in the show notes. Because I'll definitely pull out that quote and put that in the show notes. But oh my goodness, Mary, what a delight to talk to you today with
likewise.
people, because I know they're going to be pulling their cars over or getting back from their walk after they're listening to this podcast. Where do they get your book? Where do they find
Oh,
more of you?
thank you very much. You can get it at any online bookstore, all the biggies, and also bookshop.org, which helps independent bookstores and give you a discount. And also, if you go to the website, whatnobodytellyou.com, the book page gives you specific other places you can get the book.
Okay, and I will definitely put that link in the show notes so that all of you can run out as quickly as you can and get this book, because we are all getting older every day. And remember, we are pro aging, or we are aging forward. Let's get rid of that anti-aging word, because we're not anti, we are pro what we are doing and living this beautiful life together collectively. So again, thank you, Mary. And to
Thank
the
you.
listeners, remember, I am Rachel. I am celebrating you today and every day. So have fun, live
Thank you,
well,
Rachel.
enjoy. Thanks. Bye.